What's going on, everybody? My name is Tim Russell again. Today we're talking about how to know when your game is finished. Now, I'm going to save you a bunch of time. Those of you that are kind of busy, you got busy schedules, you got places to be, I'm going to save you some time because I'm going to tell you the quick answer. And the quick answer is you don't ever really know when it's finished. So if that's all the time you had, you can get out of here now. If you want to hear the longer answer, I'm going to kind of go through it now. But essentially, you never know like when a game is finished, right? There's no right answer. There's no things you can check off. There's no checklist somewhere. There's no like 10 commandments of game dev somewhere. You can never tell like when you actually did all the things to make your game complete when you're finished, right? And as an artist, I know like me, there's so many games where I'm just like, holy shit, I don't feel like that's finished, but I gotta publish it. I don't feel like that's ready, but I gotta push that out there. All the Finish Friday stuff, all the Game Jam stuff, tons of stuff that I've made. I don't feel like it's finished, and I never will feel like it's finished, and I know that. That's why I have to publish it. So I think the first thing to keep in mind, if you're wondering when your game is actually finished, is that you just have to pick a point. You have to pick a finite point in time when you're saying, okay, this is the launch date. This is when it ships. This is when I'm done. This is when I'm done ski and it's gone and it's out there in the wild. And you can always update it later if you really need to. Let's be real. We live in a digital age. You can update stuff. You can add stuff to it. It's not really consistent anymore. Like you don't have to push it on disk. It's not like a finite state like it was back in the day. So yeah, it's up to you. It's up to you 100%. But that being said, what are some things that you can kind of, learn about and maybe judge your game based on whether or not you think it's finished? Well, one, I would say you need to have a win state, right? Like you can't ship a game without a win state. If you have an arcade game that just goes based off a high score, the win state or the lose state is probably the one and the same, right? Like there's no winning a score game. You just keep trying to get a higher score. And when you die, it tells you the score. Maybe you go on a leaderboard or something like that. That's fine. Or if you got a story game, you got to close the story arc. If you got an action game, you got to finish up and have an ending. Like just having a coherent experience from start to finish, I think is really important. A lot of people that I've played games for, I played a lot of Feedback Friday games, Ludum Dare games, Game Jam games. I totally understand, but they don't feel finished, even though they may be published. And the reason they don't feel finished is because they don't have that end state. They don't have that complete experience. They don't have that beginning, middle, and end. They don't have that thing that just the credits don't roll. Like that's what makes, I think, like obviously a great story. You can't beat a great story, but like at the end when you're staring at the screen and the credits start to roll, like it says something, right? This game is done. This game is over. Thank you for playing. That was the experience, right? Like there's something subliminal or subconscious about the credits rolling. It just says, this is the end. And some games, like people will give me games that just have like one level or two levels. And then I'm just like, okay, I played the two levels. Now there are no more levels. And the game doesn't feel finished, right? And like I said, Game Jam games, I totally understand that. Like my game was like that. It didn't have a win state. So having something like that I think is really powerful. And so if you're thinking about when is your game finished, how do I figure out like when my game is finished, how much work do I need to put into it? One, I would think about having a win state. Two, I would think about a coherent experience, like the whole thing. So like the win state is a part of it, but like is there a beginning, middle, and end? Is there like an opening cutscene or an ending cutscene? Do you close the story arc? Do you build escalation over time? Is there increased like sense of tension over time? Like is things getting, are you following some sort of pattern? Basically, it's not just the same thing over and over again and then there's nothing. That feels flat. That's not a good experience. So while I don't think there's a definitive way on how to tell when your game is finished, it's something you just gotta figure out as an artist. You gotta do. These are some tips. And the last thing I would say before we end here, because this is going to be a quick video, is just if you start with the MVP, minimum viable product, which is like any startup book will tell you, you wanna build a coherent experience first. You don't want to start adding a bunch of stuff in and polishing and adding features when you have a tech demo, when you don't have a win state and you don't have a score system. You want to build the whole thing. So while you might not have all the art and the effects and the sound and all that stuff in, I can click start game, I can go into the game, I can play through the game, and then I can end the game, right? And if you have that coherent experience, one of the things that I've learned is that you can keep iterating on that experience. And every time you do, you still have a full game. If you just build it all out straight up like that, you can add the art and you got a whole game. You can add the sound, you got a whole game. You can add some levels in between, you got a whole game. Whereas if you just kind of start with a tech demo and like just build the stuff, and maybe you're really working on one level and building all these features and stuff, at no point do you actually have the game. At no point can you actually show it to somebody because it doesn't have a menu or it doesn't have a pause screen or stuff like that. So building the kind of whole experience and iterating, I feel like, is a better way to do that. And that might help some people figure out when their game is finished, because at any point, if they run out of time, they have a whole experience, right? They have a whole game, basically. So that's all I got for you. I hope you found it useful. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if there's something that you think a game needs before it's finished. If you think there's a signal that lets you know when a game is finished, let me know down in the comments. But once again, my name is Tim Roswick, and I'll see you again tomorrow.